Welcome to the Double D experience. Cultural learnings of internet for make benefit glorious comedy podcast. We love stupid people on the internet. They're nice.
It's very nice. It's making me feel smart.
We're not talking about Borat. What are we talking about today, Dennis? On the Double D Experience podcast, hosted by David and Dennis, your Double Ds, the fattest pair of Double Ds, shoved right in your face every week, Friday at noon. I don't know why I did the plugs now, but it did.
Sometimes playing low-tier characters, sometimes playing mid-tier characters, but always playing meta.
I'm a Mario main in Smash.
I know.
Mario is quite good still. He's still a very good character. So
okay. So guys, basically this is like kind of not really gonna be like my topic for this episode, but just something that I was like kind of shooting the shit with David a little bit today, and now I'm just kind of like curious to get like I guess another person's perspective on, let's say, another game that they've played that is played competitively, has tier lists, has established strats, has an established meta, at least for the most part. So we're gonna treat this interview style. David, can you tell me, as far as at least Smash goes, right? As far as its history as being like a competitive game, from the very beginning to now, I guess. How much did like them tier lists actually define the game? Like how much did it like actually kind of, let's say, defined, let's say, each game's like sort of history until the next one came out? So like I guess you don't have to go in depth for all of them, but at least just like kind of give like a little small rundown of like kind of each era if you can.
Smash is a little bit different than FGCs because, I mean, FGCs make minor changes, like Mortal Kombat X changed the traditional meter to having an offensive meter and a defensive meter instead of having them be the same meter in Mortal Kombat 11. So they usually make minor changes, but the game is still more or less the same. And Smash can be argued to be the same way, but Smash has had a very unique history in the overhauling of its mechanics and the reasoning for the overhauling of its mechanics. Like, Melee was accidentally made too competitive, and the developers didn't like that. That's why they tried to make Brawl way too casual, which eventually a lot of other people didn't like, so that's why they made Smash 4 literally completely deadlock the speed in between how fast Melee was and how slow Brawl was. And then Ultimate, where they tried to make it competitive again with a casual edge, which I feel like Ultimate, they probably did the best job at it. But as far as, like, you want to know about specifically tier lists or like the mechanics?
Tier lists, and also I guess how much mechanics played into like how, I guess, let's say, each character was placed on those tier lists.
Okay. That's gonna be, how do I concise that?
Well then let's say each game's literal best fighter, like unequivocally.
Okay,
like
so that's what you want to know first.
Yeah.
Well, that does have to do like with the mechanics of the game. Like if like say Melee's mechanics were carried over to Brawl, who knows if the best character would have been, Fox still. You know what I mean? It probably wouldn't have been, like, considering how fucked up some of the characters above him were. But the mechanics, I feel like you have to talk about, like, the characters for... I don't know. I feel like I would have to talk about the mechanics first before just deciding or explaining why a character would be the best in the game first. So, I guess to start with, I mean, Smash 64 was before Smash was even really, like, super competitive. The competitive scene didn't really sprout forth until, like, the early 2000s when Melee rolled around.
And the first Smash came out 1998, I think? 1999? Around there? 99.
Yeah.
And around that time, let's say, Street Fighter and literally, like, a whole bevy of, like, fighting games were already kind of getting like a bit of like a
lot of the other FGCs existed. I don't know.
Did they have like competitive scenes though around that time or no?
Probably. I don't know. I grew up in Smash. I don't know much about FGCs, but like I would imagine that they had like some sort of like tournaments for those at some point. Obviously, like I don't think Evo existed. Or, like, I don't know. I really don't know. I can't speak to the history of that. I can really only speak to the history of Smash. But all those other fighting games existed. Street Fighter was around. Mortal Kombat was around. Fatal Fury was around. I don't think it developed into King of Fighters yet. All that good stuff. So, as far as Smash goes, The best character in the first game was Pikachu. And for some pretty fucked up reasons. I mean, in Smash 64, one of the biggest differences compared to the other Smash games is it didn't know what the fuck it was doing yet. So the hit stun in that game was ridiculous. You could breathe on your opponent, and they would be in hit stun like forever. They couldn't act. So
It was like kind of a hit stun lock.
Yeah. So pretty much every character in the game had just like true 0 to deaths because you just got hit once, and it was really easy to follow up. And Pikachu was the best at that because of how quick his attacks were, how his up air sent you at the perfect fuck you angle off the level, like 45 degrees, and his recovery. You've seen Pikachu in Smash before. You know how he zips in one direction and zips in another? In Smash 64, for some reason, he was completely invincible while doing that.
Oh, okay.
So you just couldn't intercept him. He would just recover for free. You couldn't.
And then a lot of times when at least in Smash, and guys, this is coming from a guy who like literally plays this game on a party level. Like if someone is playing Smash at their house, I will play 2-3 games and then I'll fuck off afterwards. But
when I bring the Switch to Dane's barbecue,
yeah. So at least around that time, right? Everyone was still doing a lot of the shenanigans near the stage's edge, right? So lots of like kind of going back and forth, at least like let's say ledge. Well, don't know the full names, but like there's a lot of times where like there's a lot of player interaction that goes on, let's say around like the ledge of each stage.
That's called edge guarding.
Edge guarding,
when
okay.
You get your opponent off the level. Okay, now it's my time to make sure they don't come back.
Yeah.
That's called edge guarding. Or it might be called ledge guarding. I get the two terms confused sometimes because in the older Smash games, only one person could grab the ledge at a time.
Yeah.
So if your opponent's only option was to grab the ledge to survive, all you had to do was stay on it, roll on at the right time, and then they died.
Yeah.
But if they could make it back to stage, it was on you to just like see where they're going to go, read, are they going to go high? Are they going to go to the ledge? Are they going to go try to go in between? And then just counterattack them accordingly.
Yeah.
That's called ledge guarding, and that's sort of what forcing your advantage state is like in Smash Brothers compared to fighting games. Because like in fighting games, it's like corner pressure.
Yeah.
You see traditional fighting games, right? You're like, oh, I have my opponent in the corner. He's stuck there. I got to keep the pressure on, make sure my combos are well executed, blah, blah, blah. Smash is not about like combo execution because the combo execution in it is simpler. There's a whole Y-axis now that you play around. You know, there's up and down as opposed to left and right. So what forcing your advantage state like when you're winning in Smash Brothers is sort of what edge guarding is. It's when you get your opponent off the level, be like, okay, time to make sure they try to not come back instead of just like going to center stage and letting them back for free.
Yeah.
So think of edge guarding as sort of like the corner pressure, quote unquote, of Smash Brothers.
Okay.
Basically, if you would.
Because like at least as everyone knows, at least on this channel that you've all watched David's stuff. When it comes to Smash, at least like the whole point is that you want to knock the player or the opponent off of the stage to basically not really get a point per se, but like you make them lose a stock, and therefore you have at least point advantage, like
exactly.
At least as the game's progressing.
Yeah.
So usually like 3 stocks, you knock the guy off. Now it's 3-2, and So at least in that respect, like there is a bit of I guess compared to other fighting games, there's a bit of like a point system in that like you're just trying to get that guy down to 0, because after 0 it's done. The game's over. Like you won. And for at least also compared to Smash to other fighting games, there's the knockback, like the more percentage that you rack up, let's say like on an opponent, it's going to be easier to knock them off.
The farther they fly when they get hit, the more hit stun that they're in, so they can't act out of it. It's that's how it works, and the goal is to knock them off the screen or off the stage rather than to deplete their health down to 0%.
Compared to let's say like Marvel vs. Capcom, Tekken, a bunch of others, right? And so let's fast forward to now Melee, where, as you said, the game became out of fucking nowhere, and I hear this all the time about it. Out of nowhere, it became like quite possibly one of the most, I think out of all of them, the most competitive sort of out of all 4 or 5 that have come out to this date. Like it's literally to this day, yeah. And
that game is immortal.
Yeah,
my friends.
It's going to stand the test of time.
Despite Nintendo's attempts to kill it.
It is very true. And everyone, I know about like the few mods that people tried to make for the game. What was it? That Project something?
Project M, which is now called Project Plus, which was actually a mod of Brawl, not Melee, to make the game
more Melee like.
Yeah. To make the game more Melee.
Okay.
And it's funny that you mentioned that. There's one that's very much blossoming in Tri-State right now. It's called HDR. It's blowing up in Tri-State right now. There's actually tournaments for it. I was asked recently to commentate a tournament for it, actually, where it's the same thing, but for Smash Ultimate.
Okay. Which,
as fun as it is, it's very unpolished because it's a work in progress, made by fans and stuff like that. And it's also a mod of a game that Nintendo's currently selling, so I'm kind of wary of it. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm sure things will be fine for the time being. But yeah, Melee, continue. Yeah. Please go on.
Yeah. So then, at least in Melee, now we're going into like a very competitive game that wasn't meant to be, at least as far as its creator was concerned. Sakurai, like I don't know how much he cares for like the competitive scene, but and I mean
more for it now than he did back then, or more so that Nintendo did back then. I personally think Nintendo kind of has the guy by the balls when it comes to making the game like casually. But I think he also wanted to originally do that because he made Brawl the way it was. Brawl was literally a fuck you to Melee. That's what that game was, because they took away like all the mechanics that made the game deep, made the game very, very slow paced, added random tripping, which was a random causality that when you're running, your character could randomly trip and try to implement, which wasn't as big of a deal as people made it out to be. It very rarely happened, but when it did, it was like that's an anti-competitive mechanic.
Yeah, because it almost punishes you. It punishes you for, let's say, having, like let's say, I don't know, like if your reflexes are that fast, and let's say you see a movement coming and you basically just want to go dodge the other way, or like you want to go another direction away from it. Now you have like that coin flip toss of like, oh, am I gonna trip or not? Like, and if you do trip, chances are you're probably already dead and you lose a stock right then and there. Like
anti-competitive tech. It's an anti-competitive mechanic by nature, which is why they put it in.
Yeah,
because it was a different space at the time. That was also like around 2013 when Nintendo was trying to get Melee removed from Evo, and there was huge pushback, and so Nintendo fucked off.
Okay.
When that happened.
And that was 2013.
What?
2013, okay.
And now they've sponsored their own Smash tournaments. They've sponsored competitive Smash tournaments, actually. Yeah. There was the whole World Circuit thing that they sponsored with the Panda Cup and whatnot before all that went down the shitter for different reasons.
Yeah.
And compared with like the Smash World Tour that VGBC was doing. So they're actually more involved in the competitive scene than they've ever been. For better or for worse. That's a whole different discussion, really. And we would be here for a lot longer if we started having that talk. But
going back to metagame. As far as, let's say, Melee, right? Now, it was dominated, from what I remember, by basically 4 or 3 fighters, as like we mentioned before, and obviously one being Fox, Marth, Falco, and Jigglypuff, I think.
Yes.
Okay, so those main 4 were like
and also Shrek.
And also Shrek, the hidden 5th fighter of Melee that no one was ever able to unlock.
I was talking about it came out around the same time. Now that you mention it, actually, Shrek and Melee, like late 2001.
Dude, late 2000s was just like fucking boss ass time.
It was a better time.
Yeah. Okay. So at least,
and I'm talking about Sheik to the viewers.
Right. Yes, and Sheik. So 5. It was dominated primarily by 5 fighters that basically
also
like
Peach because of Armada.
Okay, 6. So goddamn, this list is just getting bigger and bigger. So 6 fighters,
and also the Ice Climbers because of Wallace.
Fuck you, 6 fighters. Oh no, wait, no, would it be 8? Is Ice Climbers 2? That was a terrible joke. That was a terrible joke. That was a terrible fucking joke.
No, it's okay. It's a genuine question, but no, they count as one fighter.
So 7 fighters, no more than that, right?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Melee, for the longest time, had an era. Melee had several eras. There's the documentary kids that like joined because there was a big documentary about Smash Brothers. That was when Ken, the Marth player, was the leader. Like, he was unstoppable until he would lose to PC Chris for the first time.
Okay.
And then that was way later when Mewtwo King came around the scene, and then slowly is when the 5 gods started playing. For the longest time, Melee was in the era of the 5 gods, and there were 5 players that won every single tournament.
Just untouchable.
Yeah, just untouchable except to each other.
And for those 5 guys...
That was Mango. If you're familiar with Mango, you probably heard of him.
His main character was who? Say each one for each of them.
He used to be a Jigglypuff player when he was a newer player, but he switched to Space Animals forever ago. He plays Fox and Falco.
Okay.
Then there was Mewtwo King, who that's probably a more familiar name to you. He played Marth. He played Marth, mostly Marth, and also Sheik. Then there was Dr. Pee-Pee.
What a name.
What a name. PPMD for short, who played Falco and then switched to Marth after a while.
Okay.
Then there was Hungrybox, whose
tier list I actually did watch a bit ago. Yeah.
Literally owns Team Liquid now. He co-owns Team Liquid. And
okay.
he plays Jigglypuff. And then there was Armada, who played Peach. And they were unstoppable for each other until Leffen came around with his Fox, and Leffen became known as the God Slayer. Basically, that's his nick because he was the only person who was beating these guys. Now Melee is so well rounded and people are beating each other. There's still a clear top, but like Melee is like the era of the 5 gods has long since been over. Okay. Partially, probably because 3 of them retired at this point as well. So, but as far as like the metagame goes, yes, the best character in the game to this day, pretty much considered, is Fox.
Okay, and as far as let's say even that era and like the fighters that people used, that were like basically like top tier. Like these are the fighters you pick if you want to, let's say, if you're going to the competition, you're going to play these to win. And you got to know the ins and outs of their mechanics and everything. Like all the techs, everything. You got to know it in and out. And for, let's say, around that era, right? Was there ever any complaints from other players about the fact that they hate that this game, or that this game, competitively speaking, is dominated by, let's say, these 7 fighters? There's no diverse metagame. It's not diverse like at all. All we see is the same 7 all goddamn time for each competition. Was there ever any like sort of like, let's say, kind of pushback from the community about that?
As Smash became less deep of a game as it went on, before they tried to make it a little more competitive again with Smash Ultimate and whatnot, the answer to that, if we're talking strictly Melee, is no. Because Melee, it's funny that you asked that. Melee is just, here's the difference, right? This is the analogy that I always make. Melee it's the deepest Smash game, whether you like it or not. It's the hardest for several reasons, because of all the tech that it has, the fact that it's a game with 0 input buffering, which is something that almost every modern video game has.
At least a few milliseconds or something, right? But this one, Melee has 0. Nothing.
If a frame perfect input happens, it's because you were frame perfect. It means you have to be frame perfect, which is inconceivably difficult, as you could probably imagine. But Melee, they've never had those complaints about one person, one character, or whatever dominating the meta, because that hasn't really happened. Fox is good, but he has weaknesses. He's a fast faller, so you can chain grab him. You can edge guard him because of like how linear his recovery can be sometimes, depending on the position that he's in, which also only adds a layer of depth to it because of all the different directions he can go and the angles he can do and whatnot. Melee, it's different because the game is so deep and so like competitive by nature.
Yeah.
Despite its the circumstances of its birth. That they don't really complain about that, because even though there are like fewer competitive matchups, it's so deep and there's so much you can do, to the point where the meta is still evolving to this day. A couple years ago, we thought, okay, Marth just beats the Space Animals, there's nothing they can do.
Yeah.
And now, Mango and IBDW has come out of the woodwork among other players who have beaten Zane, who's the best player in the world right now with Marth, where we thought that was never
in Melee
specifically. In Melee specifically, where we thought that was never going to happen again. And then it did. The game changes so much despite having never been patched, except for the PAL version, which is like the European version, which is crazy. And I differentiate that because the only people who complain about it are sort of ignorant Smash Ultimate players who don't know much about Melee, who don't know the history of it and whatnot, who don't care about the game or whatever, who only see Fox and Falco and they'll be like, oh, I guess it's just Star Fox the game. This is the new Star Fox. Why make a new Star Fox game? Because Melee is basically the new Star Fox.
Yeah.
They don't understand that because their game is different. Smash Ultimate, it's got depth of its own, but nothing like Melee. Smash Ultimate's depth comes from the fact that there are 90 fucking characters in that game. And you have to know all those matchups with your character. And if you don't know a matchup and you just try to play the game the same willy-nilly way, like me, for instance, I love to mash. I love to press buttons. I love to be in the face. Mario can play aggressively like that in some matchups. He can't do that in every matchup. But I'm an idiot. and I like to mash, and it's fun.
Yeah.
So it's different. Like Smash Ultimate's depth comes from knowledge. It comes from matchup knowledge, and Melee's depth comes from game knowledge because there's way more that you have to learn there. So it's less matchups you have to know as far as matchups like Fox versus Falco, Fox versus Marth. I'm a Fox main, so I have to know how to beat Marth, how to beat Jigglypuff or whatever. You would think, oh, it's easier because there's less characters. No, the game is just so fundamentally different from Smash Ultimate, despite its many similarities.
Unbelievably faster too.
Yeah, unbelievably faster too, despite the fact that they're both platform fighters. So,
would you even say like Melee's one of those games where like you will be punished for one wrong input?
Yeah,
just one. Going off of just like one wrong miss button press.
In some scenarios, yeah,
like you'll just be fucked like immediately. Like you'll lose that stock immediately.
It could happen.
Cause it's like, okay, thanks. Cause it's like, a lot of times when it comes to, let's say, any sort of competitive game, right? Like being punished, like for obviously making the wrong move, and this goes with any sort of game too. Like even chess, like you miss move, let's say a rook or a bishop, whatever, you're gonna get punished, especially if your opponent already knows what the fuck you're trying to do. Then yeah, he's gonna obviously punish you for it. And let's say even going off of the example of Fox being like a fast faller, that is something that every single person in that bracket, or like let's say top 8 that everyone's like now playing against each other, everyone in that top 8 knows what the fuck they're coming up against. And it's like, and again, I'm saying this as like a non-expert, and now I'm sort of just kind of like I'm like just spitballing here, but like now I'm imagining, okay, let's say 2 guys go up, Ice Climbers versus Fox. The Ice Climber character already knows what he's up against, and he already knows Fox's weaknesses, and he's gonna exploit the shit out of them every chance that he can get to obviously win. And for most of the time, let's say like very competitively minded players, I'd like to imagine that like obviously they're going in, as you said, with all the game knowledge that is at their disposal. Like they already, let's say, if they're already that far into the competition, right, top 8, they already know this game in and out. And like chances are this competition that they've gone into isn't the first one that they've done, like obviously. And for a lot of the guys that you mentioned before, by the time like let's say Melee was starting to, I think even during when Brawl was around, everyone was still playing Melee anyways. So so even around that time, or like I guess by the time around Smash 4 or Ultimate came out, like a lot of the guys who were still playing it, like as you said, the game was evolving and changing, and we even agree, and like even from like the brief time that I've played Melee, like obviously as like a kid, like not competitively in any way, but like even I could tell that Melee was a stupidly fast game compared to Ultimate, like insane speeds, like way faster,
especially compared to Brawl, which is the slowest Smash game.
Yeah, because like especially like as you said, Ultimate was like the fucking middle ground around that time. And now I'm like imagining, because like I play Yu-Gi-Oh, and as far as let's say card games are concerned, and at least for one that's been around for like at this point now 25 years, like holy fucking shit, this card game's been around for that fucking long. Holy crap, they're having like the 25th anniversary right now, so that's how I know, because I would have never known. But
would have never known.
And for like a game like that, let's say like even like not trying to let's say compare the two in any sort of like way, but like for Yu-Gi-Oh recently, we just came out of like what we called a tier 0 format, where there was a period of time for like at least a couple months before like the ban list came out, that there was one deck that was running around that was just like auto stomping everything else out there. It was just like, if you didn't play, as I told David, if you didn't play it, you were losing. It was it. It was just like if you wanted to, let's say, go to regionals, go to championships, go to even just like any sort of competition, local or otherwise, this was the deck you were bringing to win. And there was no other choice. There really wasn't. If you wanted to win unequivocally, you brought this, nothing else. There was no other choice you had. And now, like, going back to Smash a bit, because, going off of, let's say, the context of, like, let's say, tier 0, And I guess in terms of Melee, they never really had a sort of like tier 0, but there was...
Closest thing was Fox.
Yeah, like there was a metagame, like a definitive metagame, at least for Melee. And then even, going on further down the line, like, for Brawl and also Smash 4 and Ultimate. And like, tier lists, exist for a reason. And at least in the competitive sense, right? And I know for at least compared to Yu-Gi-Oh, the people who play Smash, at least in local scenes or even like, let's say, majors, they're playing competitively. They're playing to literally destroy the opponent, like flat out. Like but then at the same time, like, everyone always says like, oh, there's like a casual scene for a game compared to the competitive scene. And now I guess my next question is that like, at least as far as like, let's say Smash is concerned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how much does the community's casual scene matter in the grand scheme of things?
How much does the casual scene matter?
Yeah.
I don't know, because like there are like some tournaments have like casual side events.
Yeah.
Like for Ultimate, there's a squad strike mode in Smash Ultimate.
Yeah.
That's where you take like 3 characters and 5 characters, and each character gets 1 stock, and then you get to like change the order of the characters before you start, like strategize it beforehand and whatnot.
Yeah. Different formats, basically.
Yeah, different formats, basically, but they're considered like casual, like side events and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like they're not considered like, main event stuff like that. So as far as the casual scene, I feel like there's a huge disconnect between the casual scene of Smash compared to like the competitive one, because like casual players like will make up their own competitive rules.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, I remember like we eventually turned off items on our own rulings before we even knew that like there was even a competitive scene when we were 12. And I always felt like there was that disconnect between them, where casual players didn't like competitive Smash players because they're just like, oh, you're not playing the game the way it's meant to be played.
Yeah.
And then competitive players were like, yeah, but like there's so much like def when you play it this way, and we just like to play to win. And that was Sakurai's biggest blunder, or his dilemma for a long time. Is like, how do I make this game appeal to both? It sucks, because like
Melee specifically, right?
No, just add the whole franchise as it went on, because he realized what Melee was becoming.
Yeah.
And competitive players always saw it badly too, because they're just like, dude, like you could still play Melee casually, and people do. Like even competitive players play it casually sometimes for like YouTube content, because
you don't have to be a sweat lord and play Martha Fox like all the goddamn time.
They even do that stuff for YouTube content, casual modes, like Golden Guardians, who sponsors a couple top Smash players. They made a mod of like 4-player adventure mode in Melee, and that video was funny as shit. I watched it. You want to know why? Because that's where the real money is.
That's content.
That's where the real fucking money is. That's why. And yeah. So it's more ingrained now than it's ever been across both games, because of how much the community has grown, the outreach, how many different people have joined it. But as far as the game's mechanics, which go back to Tier 0, what we were talking about, Sakurai tried to make the whole game appeal to what he wanted, to what Nintendo wanted at the time.
To the creator, what wanted.
Because he saw what Melee was becoming, and he's like, I don't want that. He made fighting games in the first place. This is a fun story about Sakurai. I don't remember what fighting game it was. He was playing in an arcade cabinet, one of those 2-way arcade cabinets where you couldn't see the other person.
Oh, that sounds dope.
Yeah, Virtua Fighter it might have been, or it might have been...
Why don't we have something like that here?
I don't think it was Street Fighter. I don't remember what game it was, but it was a popular fighting game. And Sakurai fucking bodied this guy. Bodied him, and he didn't even know who he was playing against. And then the guy walks away with his he gets out of the container, and he sees the guy's there with his girlfriend. And Sakurai realizes he
felt real bad.
He felt horrible.
He just emasculated the dude on screen, like
yeah, exactly.
Oh my god!
And that is part of that became part of Sakurai's philosophy, where it was like, I don't want to make people feel like that by accident in a game that can sometimes just be meant to be fun.
Yeah.
So, and he saw what Melee was becoming, and he's like, I don't want the casual players to feel isolated. Not only because I don't want them to feel bad, that's where our real money is. On top of that, like, there's like the biggest market for it. Most of the people who buy Smash are still casuals to this day.
Yeah.
That is why he made Brawl the way it was. Remove wave dashing. Remove wave dashing, make the game way slower, make it way floatier, add tripping and whatnot. Just try to make the game way less, anti-competitive. Also make the game balance terrible. to talk about Tier 0, the ultimate Tier 0 that has ever existed in Smash, ironically enough, was in that game. And you already know who in Brawl. And you gotta know who I'm talking about for this one, Dennis. Come on, take a guess.
Meta Knight?
There you go.
Okay.
Meta Knight, Brawl Meta Knight.
I mean, yeah, Meta Knight was insane in that game. Holy shit.
Brawl Meta Knight was one of the most broken fighting game characters.
Holy fuck.
Period. Even casual players who knew nothing about competitive Smash, like
Got
I
raffle
was,
stomped.
when I, not even just raffle stomped, like I was when I was a kid watching competitive Smash. Even we watched Meta Knight in casual like we're just at a party with our friends. I was 12 years old, sleepovers, whatever. When somebody picked Meta Knight, we just watched him, and even we knew how fucked up that character was.
Yeah.
He was so messed up to the point where, like, you don't need somebody to even, like, explain, a competitive player to explain to a non-competitive player why
this character's broken.
You can visually see it.
Yeah.
His up air started and ended where he was actionable to be able to do another one before any of Smash 4 Shulk's moves came out.
Not to even mention, Brawl was also way more floaty compared to even
and
Melee.
Moves were generally way
You could
slower.
just stack up percentages. Like,
except for him.
Except
for him. He was just fast as shit. Not to mention there was a glitch that was banned outright. If you did his dimensional cape, that's his down special where he can teleport and then respawn with a sword
I'm
slash.
familiar with it. Hmm?
If you do that move in Brawl and mash the C-stick down, he didn't reappear. He just didn't reappear. And so you couldn't hit him. He got a stock lead and then he just disappears. Game over. So that tech was obviously banned.
Yeah,
like, completely banned.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's... What the fuck? Like, why can he do that? That's legit not fair. So yeah, to go back to Tier 0, I guess, the way Sakurai answered to, like, trying to make the game appeal to both eventually, it's like, okay, I see what Melee's becoming. Fuck, I gotta appeal to the casual base.
Yeah.
I made Brawl. Fuck, the competitive players fucking hate it.
Yeah.
Now what do I do? Shit. So his idea is when Smash 4 came around, the speed of that game, like the air speed, the ground speed, like the general speed of the game, was dead locked in the center
Between
of
each.
Melee and Brawl.
Yeah.
And a lot of people liked that for a while.
There's a good balance, yeah.
The Melee players still didn't like it because they still thought, like, you know, the game's
It's still too slow.
It was still too slow, still, like, very floaty. And there's a lot more Melee players that like Ultimate because Ultimate is even faster.
Okay.
And Ultimate, I feel like, strike the best balance between that, you know, competitive and casual players, as well as just balance in general. Ultimate is amazing in the sense that, as many quarrels as I have with that game.
Juggling, 90-something fucking fighters?
90 fucking characters, and really, it wasn't until that recent tech that was discovered where we realized, okay, we might need to do something.
That's like a game balancing's nightmare.
Dude, it's
like 90
insane.
fucking characters. It's insane,
It's insane. Like, the top 20 characters in that game can all be considered top tiers. It's crazy, really.
Like Steve. Or any,
all right.
or any of you know.
So, if you want me to talk about that, or if you have more questions to ask about it,
no, I had a couple more.
Please.
It was because, like, at least in the context of the game that I play, like in terms of Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Like,
yes.
we have a card pool
what was
that
the broken deck? Yeah, like what was that?
It was called Ishizu Tier.
Ishizu Tier.
So basically, this deck was all about essentially a thing called milling. And milling is basically you are sending your cards from your deck to a spot called the graveyard, which is basically the discard pile.
I remember the graveyard. That I remember about Yu-Gi-Oh!
And it's basically where, you know, like the cards go to die. But in this case,
I spent a lot of time there in the very few times I played Yu-Gi-Oh! As a child.
So at least around like this
It
era.
looks like you're headed to the shadow. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Please go on.
So just to explain the deck real quick, because the deck, just I guess a bit of a spoiler alert for even like the two people that, like, let's say play Yu-Gi-Oh! In this on this channel.
Yeah.
This deck got basically nuked, fucking neutered by the balls, by Konami themselves, because they essentially they have this thing called a ban list that they bring out basically whenever the fuck they want at this point, and used to have like a set schedule, but now not so much anymore. And the ban list basically is dictated by them about basically what cards are not allowed to be played in a competitive setting. Just flat out, you cannot play them. They're forbidden. And they also kind of have, they kind of go in like certain levels where like a card is only limited. So if it's limited to, let's say, 1, you only get to play 1 in your deck. So if it's limited by 2, you only could play 2 in the deck. So on and so forth. And unlimited basically means you could play up to max copies of 3. And banned is just banned. You just cannot fucking use it, just flat out. Like, okay. Just unallowed. And before that ban list came, and this deck was essentially just wrecking shit for about, like, I think a couple months. The ban list for it came out in February. This shit came out in November, this deck. And it at full power dominated the next 3 months from that November to February, just dominated it. Flat out, you literally, no other deck could even come close to this shit.
That is technically pay to win, isn't it?
It is, because the way that at least Konami goes about like peddling their products and pushing it to their customers is that basically, hey, by the way, this new set that's coming out has these broken ass cards that basically you can use and pay us money, please. Yes.
Money first, game balance later, right?
And yeah, basically. So for a while, for about 2 months up to I think January, this deck got like a shitty whatever, like kind of, oh, we heard your complaints, here's a little emergency ban list. None of the main cards for that deck were hit at all. The shit was still at full power. It did, like, the ban list did nothing. Like, a card that wasn't even part of, like, the main deck's, like, list was hit to 1. And it wasn't even an important one either. And, like, everyone already kind of was even saying at that point, like, this list is dog shit. Like, it didn't fix anything. Like, what was it supposed to help? Like, at all. And obviously, compared, like, let's say, a card game to, let's say, a game that gets patched by, like, a publisher or a company, obviously, those updates and patches, you know, if there's a big community outcry for it, the patches will roll. Like, they will come out, like, as soon as possible if, like, the complaining is big enough, right? And the way, at least, like, Konami kind of goes about, like, kind of observing how the metagame's going, how the competitive scene's going, and let's say what decks are topping, because, like, all those information, all that information is made public to them, and made public to the public in general. Like, which decks topped, which was top 16, which was top 8, which ones are dominating, like, what cards are basically being used. Like, it's all data that they're all gathering. And this deck, literally, again, this was something that was running around that if you didn't play it, you are gonna lose. Now, going to, let's say, the casual side of things, right? Say you're imagining, like, you're a child. It's like, oh, I got my, like, little 3 structure decks. I'm gonna go play at my locals. And, you know, like, I got my little mat, everything. Like, you know, the kid just wants to go play Yu-Gi-Oh! He didn't want to be fucking destroyed, like, just fucking turn 1 in a card game. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Like, you know, it's like the same when you're, like, I mean, maybe not so, because even kids who play Smash know what the fuck they're doing. Like, they will, like, a kid has an equal chance, unless his hands are that small, he just can't reach the thumbsticks.
Like, he has an equal top Steve mains, literally in high school.
He has an equal chance of bodying your ass, even if he's like 10 years your junior. It does not fucking matter at all. Like, but at least in Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Like, it's all, again, all card games are the same way. It's all dictated on pay to win. How much money you willing to shell out to play this game competitively and to win?
Really, just we nerfed the deck because they didn't want to nerf it too hard to stop
essentially,
people from buying it,
because for the longevity of, let's say, a lot of cards and for product, right? They don't want to ban shit too quick, because otherwise then no one's gonna want to buy their product. Oh, it's banned already? I can't even use it, so what the fuck's the point? So now fast forward to February, where a lot of people were expecting 2 things. Either the deck was gonna get nuked the fuck out of existence, or that they were just gonna do another, like, kind of like slap on the wrist sort of list and just be like, oh, we heard your concerns, blah blah blah, whatever. Here is 1 card that is now limited. Sorry.
Was there a third option that happened?
No, it was nuked. It was option one.
Really?
Shit was nuked.
Wow.
Shit was fucking nuked.
That is not what I thought it would be, because I would for sure, if I was Konami, be like, yeah, we don't want these cards to only be sold to the collectors. We want money. So
No, yeah, we want players to win. We want players to play.
I would assume that it would. Oh, that is a conflict of interest, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I thought, like, for sure they'd be like, okay, most people have the deck now.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point where it's just like, we made our money from it.
Yeah.
We're not going to lose too many sales.
Now let's nuke
nerf
it.
But they did it anyway because the deck was so busted. It was making
was
people not
busted.
want to play the fucking game.
That's
and
the thing.
They were losing
Local
even more.
shops.
That is an interesting conundrum from a company's perspective, really.
Going off of what you're saying right now, local shops were reporting attendance levels were fucking plummeting.
Ooh.
No one wanted to go to locals because this fucking piece of fuck deck was literally running the fuck around, and everyone was playing it. Even people who were playing the mirror matches, and like even for fighting games, fighting a mirror match and stuff, it's kind of interesting, you know. Like at least when you see like two Foxmains going at it, because it's like, I know everything you know. Let's just see who's faster, like, in a way, you know, or let's see who just plays better, right?
Yeah.
And at least in this deck, Ishizu Tier's mirror matches were fucking insane, and not to mention now, Konami has a time rules for their events where you have 40 minutes to play as basically you have 40 minutes to play best of 3 matches. And at the end of the 40 minutes, whoever has like obviously more wins the round, okay? And then he advances, you know? And people were saying these game ones were lasting for fucking forever. And not to mention, it's just like if you misplayed once, they just immediately just surrendered and said, okay, we go to game 2. They didn't even fucking try to play through it. They just said, yeah, no, we're gonna go to game 2, all right? We're gonna game 2. And then just like, you know, shuffling everything real quick.
They just knew.
They just knew, yeah, like, okay, there's no coming back from it. If I fuck up once in this mirror match, I'm basically dead. I am fucking dead. There's no coming back from it.
That's what happens when something becomes so absurdly broken, because a lot of old Brawl heads have described Meta Knight Dittos in Brawl as basically just chess. Like, he wasn't playing the same game as every other character was, and just negated their whole ass existence to the point where the game is now this. It becomes this, and that's what happened with the Ishimada Fakitada Baba deck. And, what was it called again?
Ishizu Tier.
Ishizu Tier, thank you.
And you know what what the main deck monsters look like? They were water thoughts. I'm not even fucking kidding. They were basically water bitches.
Like in the new Pixar movie?
No. They were like actually like human anthropomorphic kind of looking
like
yeah.
Sea Prince and the Fire Child? Like, this is my goodbye dance?
Yeah, basically kind of.
Is that what was happening at the Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments? Be like, alright, this game sucks now. I don't want to play it anymore. So goodbye. This is my goodbye dance. And they start wiggling their arms.
Until the new list comes around, I'm leaving.
As they walk away from the fucking table, this is my goodbye dance.
Like, you might as well, like, it was like the power level of like, cause like Yu-Gi-Oh's had multiple tier 0 formats. A lot of them of which, like, it was when I was not playing the game, essentially. Like, this was basically the first tier 0 format that I've ever been a part of and like seen. And you know what was really fucking like goofy goober of me? I bought the deck. Here's the thing. I bought the deck. It was at full power. 2 weeks later, that ban list came out, and I was just like, oh, well, shit. I can't play this no more. That was like my goofy goober ass being like, it was like low-key kind of FOMO because I missed going back to locals, right? And I'm like, okay, well, if everyone's playing this fucking deck, then I guess I should play it too, right? And then literally 2 weeks later, before I was gonna go back, they basically said, haha, JK, and just fucking basically just like BTFO'd the shit out of the deck. It was insane because now, after the list came out, right? Everyone who was basically playing the game, it was a mix of, actually, believe it or not, celebration and, because for one, Yu-Gi-Oh players, a lot, especially the super competitively minded ones, hate a diverse metagame for a couple of reasons. They hate it for a couple of reasons. Because they have no idea how to prepare for, let's say, going into an event. Because now, let's say, it's different, let's say, if you go to an event of 90 people where everyone is essentially playing the same deck. Everybody. So you already automatically know, and it's like a bit more predictable for you as to like what to basically side for, and like basically kind of like just what to think about and like what to kind of look out for, right? Way more predictable in that sense. Because if everyone's playing the same thing like me, then I know what the fuck to basically do. Like I know it in and out. Now you go into a diverse format where basically like 10 to 20 to fucking 30 different other decks are just running the fuck around everywhere. All of them have different mechanics. All of them play differently. All of them do something different, right? Now you have no idea what the fuck to predict, and now you have no idea what the hell, or how the hell to prepare for it, like at all. And you know, going into, let's say, now going back to Smash, you go to a tournament, not let's say for Smash Ultimate so much, but let's say for Melee, you're probably gonna be facing the same 7 fucking characters that you play, everyone else plays. Like everyone's gonna be playing the same fucking thing, and you already automatically know what to predict for, how to basically like, you know, exploit weaknesses, capitalize, all that. You know it in and out, that metagame. Now you go into, let's say, going into Smash Ultimate, and maybe you could kind of go into this a bit more for me here, because it's like, now you go into like, let's say a Smash Ultimate tournament, right?
And then you're going starts changing colors, and you don't know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, exactly. Like going into play as Mario, and like, let's say you predict the top 20 fighters, as you mentioned, like for Smash Ultimate, like you're thinking, okay, like most people are probably gonna be playing these guys. And then some guy just decides, oh, I'm gonna just be the rogue asshole and play like a fighter that no one's probably ever played against in this game, flat out. And he'll have no idea what the fuck to do, because it's like he is not familiar with let's say the fighter's mechanics. He doesn't know how to counter him. He has no idea like how to prepare for it either, because it's like going in, because people forget as far as like how important prep time before an event is. How much time you spend, let's say, preparing for an event really fucking matters. And
there's 3 tips to getting better. There's 3 big things in order to improving in a game like Smash or any competitive game really, and that is practice. The second is knowledge.
Obviously. Yep.
And then the third is mentality.
Yep.
Those are the 3 things.
Third, mentality, also going into specifically, it's like you're going in there to have fun. Just remember that. You're playing a game, and the game's meant to be fun. Just know that. You're going in there to have fun.
It's part of why I stopped playing Smash Ultimate. The game stopped being fun for me.
Because, yeah, it's like, if at that point, it's like, okay, then if you're not having fun playing, then it's like, at that point, just step away. Because
paying money to, you know, play a game
to feel shitty?
that I don't care to improve at. You know, like I stopped caring when I won, but I still got mad when I lost. Yeah. You know? And now I'm in a different mentality, so who knows? But probably still not, but regardless. I think it's interesting because, you know, it's interesting because I feel like that's a competitive player thing. They want to go in knowing what to expect. But as the Nintendo fan, or like the sort of, I guess, little bit of casual in me, I like the diversity that Smash Ultimate
offers, exactly. Me
as
too as well.
Because I'd like to see all these different characters. I like to see a Duck Hunt in a top 8 now. And now there's a Dr. Mario. Holy shit. Yeah. And there's a Banjo-Kazooie in it this time. It's fun, not as a commentator as well, not casting the same old shit all the time. I like to cast both the later ends of the brackets because they get more viewers and you get to cast higher level Smash. But I like to cast pools as well, because instead of the cream of the crop, you get to find out who the cream of the crap is. And it's funner, you know, and plus you sometimes get to see characters you don't always get to see. It's why I feel like Melee is probably a harder game to cast as well, and why so many other Melee casters are just laid back as opposed to very like diction oriented and knowledge oriented like Smash Ultimate ones are, because I'm just gonna be real, I think Ultimate's an easier game to cast. Not by so much, but Melee there's just so much to know as far as like the depths of the game that, you know, you have to like point your shots out as a commentator. You call them when you see them, rather than talk about situations that aren't even always there to show how much you know, or to talk about a matchup going in to just fill the air as you would. So it's interesting seeing that like attitude when it comes to card game players instead, because I feel like, you know, some competitive Smash players could feel the same way. But it's funny that you mentioned that, because I feel like card games is different, because new decks drop and then you have to buy the new decks or whatever. It's like you don't have to do that with like something like Smash Brothers.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah.
You know, you don't even have to buy like the DLC characters on your console if you don't want to. I know players who don't even have any.
You have that choice.
Yeah, you have that choice rather than like something becoming, I guess, that meta defining. As funny as that becomes, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, when it comes to like card games, is there like? I'm trying to think of a better question to really. I'm trying to think of a better question to really ask here, because like, do you feel like it's the same like 3 rules when it comes to Smash when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh, because like Smash, like I mentioned, it's like FGC games, it's practice, knowledge, and mindset.
Yeah.
Very three important things, and some matter more depending on the game. Like I feel like Smash Ultimate is a way less execution heavy game than Melee is. But Melee, you don't have to know as many matchups. You don't need to know the Mario matchup in Melee. You need to know
the 7.
You don't need to know the Bowser matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part. Whereas Ultimate, you do. Would you say that those are the 3 things that are the most important?
Absolutely.
For card games like Yu-Gi-Oh as well. You think practice and knowledge and mentality are all equally important, or is some more important than the others, or how do they even apply to like professional card game tournaments?
Okay, so let's say practice. What was the 3 again? Practice,
knowledge,
and then
mentality,
right? So practice, as far as it goes, let's say you hear about this new deck. It's tier 1. This shit's gonna fucking slap up the competition. It's just gonna be fucking just clap city. But if you get that deck, right, you dropped, let's say, $1,000-something for the fucking goddamn pieces of cardboard. And if you have no idea how it works, it's fucking useless. You have no idea how the fuck it works, then it's just like, well, how are you gonna win? So at that point, now it's like where the practice comes in. You watch videos, you see combo tutorials, you see a lot of like kind of, let's say, a lot of videos that go in depth about like basically how the deck works, how you should basically stack your main deck and see like what kind of stuff to put in, put out. There's like a lot of work that goes into it, because it's like a lot of people also like when they as far as when it comes to deck building, some people, because like the minimum amount that you're supposed to be playing in this game is 40, the max is 60 for the main deck. And now there's this thing called the extra deck, where it's like now it's basically you're using the stuff in your main deck to build this stuff from the extra deck. And then you also have a thing called a side deck, which is like basically when you go into, let's say, from round 1 to 2, you side out a couple of stuff for things that you have in the side deck that'll help you better prepare for, let's say, this matchup. Because let's say, okay, these cards are not really working well for me right now. I'm going to side these out for this stuff for this next game in game 2. So now it's like you have basically, 2 sets of basically resources that you have to know how to build and also how to use. And the thing is also with Yu-Gi-Oh is that like as far as mechanics go, right? And even compared to, let's say, Smash, you could have a shitty character and you could struggle at least. You will struggle, you'll probably lose, but you could at least like put up a fighting chance for yourself. At the very least, right?
And if you get good enough with the character, you can still matchup check people, and they'll be like, why the fuck did I lose to a Dr. Mario?
Exactly.
The character sucks, what the hell?
But the thing is, in Yu-Gi-Oh, there are actual straight-up mechanics and cards that prevent the player from straight-up playing. You just cannot do anything. It will just lock you out of basically an entire mechanic, and it'll just say, haha, fuck you, you can't do nothing, and then he'll just pass turn, and then you'll just be like, oh, I can't do nothing. Like, yeah, go ahead.
That's one of a few places where I feel like card games don't apply to Smash.
Yeah.
Because it's like because something like that in a fighting game is just
you cannot down. It will not fly.
When one character has a trait that instead of just making them unique compared to other fighters or make somebody want to play them or something that's broken in a good way in their own regard, you have the new Steve Tech that drops called Phantom MLG, where is a version of MLG where he can literally just break out of hit stun. Which is not something that that's just anti.
I've never heard of that in any character in Smash. I don't even play competitively.
Some characters, I mean, it's not even like a combo breaker like characters with like frame 3 nairs like Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi have in Smash. It's literally just something like, you touched me, you won neutral, right? You won the neutral game, you hit me, so you should be in advantage state, but I am in the advantageous position for you winning neutral against me. That is not fair no matter how you spin it.
No, absolutely not.
Steve mains are saying that shit should be banned. Like, Steve mains are fucking saying that.
Yeah.
And some people are just outright banning the character because they feel like, oh, it's not enforceable to just, like, see, like, oh, did you use the tech in this game? Like, did you use it? Like, we have
no, because it's like at that point, you just ban outright the character.
It would hold up brackets so much as well. So we're praying to God that there might be, like, a shadow patch or something, because they did that with Bayonetta, actually, believe it or not. to go back to tier 0.
Who was a
Smash
tier
again.
0 character flat out. There was no other person that you were gonna play in that fucking format at all.
As the game
Like-
went on, there was literally like a circle of like Smash players, like a very gay Smash players that just came out of nowhere. They literally just came out of nowhere, started winning tournaments, and then got into all sorts of other problematic shit that I'm not gonna discuss here because it's sad and cringe. But yeah, they all played Bayonetta. The character literally did not have a disadvantage state. You couldn't ledge trap her. You couldn't combo her for risk of witch time happening, which is a counter that immobilized you on a character that literally could 0 to death you off of one touch. Has a counter that stops you. She has a counter that stopped you. And then once she did that, like, overextending against a character is one thing. Like, oh, I went too far off the level, like to edgeguard them, and now I died for it. Overextending against Bayonetta back in Smash 4 was a completely different ballpark because you had to just mix up everything you did just to be like, is she going to do it? Is she going to witch time?
Yeah.
Is she going to counter me? Because if she does, you're dead.
Yeah.
For playing the fucking game, like, for no reason.
But it's also a game that you had no chance of winning to begin with. And it's the same thing that goes for, I think, tier 0 in any sort of like kind of game where it's like, oh, look, this character or deck or whatever, like champion in League of Legends. There is no other reason why I would play anything else because it's like this thing is guaranteed. Like, if I know the character in and out, then you already have even a more bigger advantage than anyone else because it's like, look, you know how this character works. You know it's broken. You are going to take advantage of its brokenness and you're going to exploit the shit out of it and you're probably going to win. Like, flat out. Like, it's just like, you know, it's not rocket science. And I always kind of like wondered as far as like how tier 0 goes, like for a lot of games, like now question is it healthy? I think minimum, no, it's not. By the bare minimum answer, it's like, it's not healthy at all whatsoever. Like, I like myself a diverse format. I obviously, who doesn't get pissed knowing that, oh yeah, I died to, let's say, this tier -1 million fucking character deck / champion. Like, who wouldn't get pissed, right? But at the same time, it's like being even an observer of like how metagames shift and go, and like how sometimes they do change, sometimes they revert back. Like, it's a lot of fun seeing, at least from an observing standpoint, like how, like, you know, how diverse, let's say, like a format is. Like seeing like a top 16 cut in Smash or even Yu-Gi-Oh, and like just seeing that like it's a fucking diverse ass pie. I kind of love it.
I love that too.
It kind of gets me
as
hard.
a caster, I love it as well.
It gets me a little horny, like,
Yeah.
seeing that.
Me
Like,
too,
I do
dude.
love seeing it. Like, because, bro, there was a time.
Fucking Bayonetta I casted, how tired I got of that shit. How tired I got of talking about like the new game in that way. It wasn't exciting. We were all in denial saying that like Bayonetta playing her own game is exciting, but we were all just in denial that like
It was called Bayonetta format, maybe.
This,
I don't know.
This
Was
character
it?
is the game now, and we have to do Bayonetta basically, or Meta. Knight.
Bayonetta. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh,
It was Ishizu tier 0. They literally called it Ishizu tier 0, but tier was TEAR, but it was TIER.
And
then
she
0.
wasn't even the most broken character that was ever in Smash. I think she was only the second most. I still think Meta Knight in Brawl was better.
as far as like, let's say tier 0, like kind of characters.
Yeah, Meta Knight invalidated like literally that game's entire cast. And Bayonetta did too, to an extent, but some of the other DLC characters were broken. Like Cloud was also very fucked.
Oh, right, yeah.
Cloud was
yeah.
fucked. Cloud was the undisputed best character in the game before Bayonetta dropped. In
There's
Smash 4.
another similarity there too, because like just like how DLC fighters when they came out, they always came out broken for the most part, at least from what I remember. Like, it was the same for even it's the same for Yu-Gi-Oh too, because it's like all the new sets always have like new shit coming out, and sometimes maybe 2 out of 3 times there's always like some shit that comes out that's just straight up fucking broken.
Gotta make
And
something
people
unique to get
exploit
people
the
to buy
shit
it.
out of it. Yeah.
Gotta make something unique to get people
Exactly.
to buy it, you know
and
what
then
I mean?
after that, they realize, okay, yeah, you're fun. We're gonna nerf the shit out of it now because it's like, you know, at least as far as like for the health of the game, it's not healthy,
Yeah.
right? But like, it's so funny because there were some formats, just like even in Melee, where let's say 7 fighters defined the fucking game, right? 7 only. Like, that was the only thing everyone ever used, and at the same time, people love Melee for that, right? Yeah. It's the same for Yu-Gi-Oh! Because we've had past formats where it was dominated by 4 to 5 just main decks that were just like, at the very least, it's not just one. You have a choice. And like, they are all competitively viable against each other. At the very least, it's like, okay, now you're not just like kind of like pigeonholed into like only playing this one deck to win a competition. At least you have a choice. And it also like, whenever anyone even plays like a character or a deck, right? A lot of times, like, I play shit that suits like maybe not my personality, but like kind of what I'm into, right? Like I play extensively dragons in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like extensively. That's like kind of what my main deck is. And for any Smash character, right?
I play extensively plumbers.
Yeah. He plays an Italian plumber, right? You know,
that's the beautiful thing about Ultimate is that it has all the if you can't find a character that you like in Smash Brothers Ultimate,
yeah, that's just a you problem.
Fighting games are not for you. Then.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you cannot, or maybe platform fighters is a better way to express it because they're very different than normal FGC games.
No, that's true. But at the same time, like the
principle still stands.
When you go into like a game that's as diverse as that, where you have a choice of fucking 90, now including Sora, it's like you gotta find something that you like. At least one fucking character. At least one, you know? And at least even in Yu-Gi-Oh! You have like a kajillion fucking archetypes that like you have basically a choice from. Some are shittier than others, yeah. But it's like, at the very least, like, you have just a whole range of choice to pick from.
Yeah.
Go pick it up, buy it, and then play it. That's it.
Yeah.
And at least for Smash 2, it's like, no one could complain that, oh, this is just nothing but Nintendo characters. No one can say that anymore. Like, it stopped being a Nintendo-centric game.
Yeah.
Ever since they threw in Snake and Sonic. Like, after that, it was just like...
Game on.
Game on. But like Sakurai said, maybe we should wait a while. And then Ultimate came out. And 4 came out. And then they were like, okay, now we could monetize the fuck out of this.
Mega Man. Pac-Man.
Mega Man, Pac-Man.
Cloud motherfucking Strife.
And Sephiroth.
Sephiroth didn't come till Ultimate.
Okay, yeah, true. But then, like going into Ultimate now, like look, just the fucking library of fighters in that fucking game, and it's the reason why, like, at least going in, like, again, not an expert on Smash, but just seeing it from a third person's perspective, at least as far as let's say its metagame is concerned, I like me some diverse metagames.
And Ultimate has the most diverse one. It really does, and it's insane that it does, considering it has the most fighters. That's an amazing achievement. That's an amazing achievement. Like, and as far as Tier 0, like healthy metagames go, like you mentioned, yeah, Brawl, Meta Knight pretty much became the game. Meta Knight and like the Ice Climbers back in Brawl, even pretty much just Meta Knight. But Meta Knight Dittos were hype as shit. You know, they were fast paced, they were intense, like they could fly like underneath the stage and shit.
Oh,
like, in between
okay.
Like,
that would be hype, yeah, that would be hype.
It was crazy, honestly. Bayonetta Dittos were the most boring fucking shit in the world. And Bayonetta was just lame as fucking sin. Because like there was just no counterplay to her. Honestly. Not to mention also her player base was incredibly toxic. And yeah. And Steve was never that. He was never meta-defining, but people
just annoying.
Nobody was banning Steve for being annoying. That's not fair.
Yeah.
You nerf something when something is overpowered or broken, and you never nerf something to the point where it takes away the original design of the character. Bayonetta in Smash Ultimate. Mm-hmm. She could still combo you, because she was fucking designed to do that. They wanted her to have crazy lengthy combos flying through the air like Dante. Yeah. And she still does. But they just got rid of all the broken shit. Like, which time has crazy cooldowns. Like, she has to actually, like, time it instead of you being immobilized forever. If she does the heel slide on you on your block, she can't do the second kick, which means you can actually punish her for it. Yeah. Instead of, like, having to just fucking cry. It's at least possible to SDI out of some of her stuff now, and if you get roofed, it's usually your fault because you got put in a bad spot. It's not like she gets everything for free now. She actually has a disadvantage state, plus her kill power outside of those crazy combos sucks. So they actually balanced her, and the character, later on in the meta, she's still not bad. She's not busted, but like she's still not fucking crazy like she was before. So Steve, I think Smash players are just so scarred from dealing with Bayonetta for years. You know, that they're just like sort of preeminently like getting ahead of it because there've been
they're like already rolling their eyes when the matchup comes. Like,
there've been so much tech with Steve discovered would be like, okay, that's really fucking stupid, but it's still not broken or ban worthy yet. And this is the one where it's like this character can break out of literally any combo now
and punish you for even trying to think to combo. Yeah. That's the thing.
Literally for pressing one button. By the way, you just press B and it works.
And you even mentioned
that is bullshit.
You even mentioned something called overextending, which kind of Yu-Gi-Oh has the same way where we like also the way we like kind of like set up our what we call set up our boards, like kind of just setting up like all the monsters we're gonna have on the field and just anything else, right? Like setting up boards is kind of like what you do in turn 1, and just kind of like basically when you pass to the opponent, it's like okay, break it, like go ahead, try, like please by all means, go ahead, do it, and you mentioned overextending now, and Yu-Gi-Oh also has many cards that punish people for overextending. And it was something that they were forced to make because of the fact that people were literally comboing off for about 15 fucking minutes. Completely just like went from 40 to like 15 cards. Just like everything's just kind of been used up to set up this, board. Now, like, the game's kind of slowed down a bit now, but when I came back into the game, like 2018, I believe, like I came around then, bro, it was insane what people could do. It was actually fucking nuts. Like people, at least, cause like there was a lot of broken cards back then, and I kind of missed those broken cards because I used those broken cards. But I understood why they got banned because the shit was fucking broken. Like, it's really one of those moments where it's like, yeah, I use the overpowered shit, but I don't like it when it's used against me. And it was basically like Yu-Gi-Oh players.
He's honest.
Yeah, like all the Yu-Gi-Oh players go into it knowing that they love it when it works for me, or when it's done to me. Fuck this card and fuck its children. Like it's literally gets to that level of hatred. It's so weird, like the love-hate relationship that they have. And going back to the cards that like I was playing back then that got banned, the game's, because those cards got banned, now shit very much like slowed down to the point where it's like, you will now, if you dare to overextend, and there's a thing, like, when there is a time to overextend and when there's not to. But if you overextend and you get punished, everyone says and everyone agrees, that's on you. You went into it knowing, like, because also card advantage is also such a big thing. If your opponent has nothing in hand, then at that point I'd be like, okay, go nuts, literally go fucking nuts. Like there is probably not much that he could possibly do at that point. Like it's just winning at that point. But if you're playing against a guy and you plan on comboing, and now you're thinking, oh, should I just go full fucking combo and like just fucking end on like this amazing board? But if he has 5 cards in his hand, chances are he's got something that will punish you for even thinking about that. So now it's like, okay, now do I kind of take it a bit slow, go a little bit mid-range with it, and then whatever follow-up he has after I break that, then I just go for it. It's like there's a lot more thinking that is involved with it. Compared to, let's say, I don't know, it was so fucking funny. Like back in the day when I was playing, it was just like, you could a deck could just go autopilot. And it would just win for you. It was fucking nuts, man. Like some of the formats that I was like kind of seeing back in the day, like, and like we have these things even called like hand traps that basically are meant to kind of like stop opponents' plays. And like, okay, like now you can't do that. What are you gonna do next? And a lot of times when the tier list came out for decks, it was always defined by, can it play through hand traps? Because if it can't play through hand traps, then your deck is just shit. It's just there's nothing more else to say about it. If it dies off of one hand trap, then your deck is shit. Like there's no way to go about it. Other way to go about it. Like
I say something similar in that, like, if you play Mario and Smash, and like your sword character loses to Mario,
that's on you.
That means your character sucks.
That's a skill. That's also a skill issue too at that point.
Yeah, because like Mario's notoriously struggled against swords, so it's funny, just talk about like games in comparison like that, because some actually just have like one-on-one comparisons and other ones really don't. It's really beautiful in all their differences.
Yeah,
if it makes any sense. I realize that feels like kind of like a nothing statement, like, and the pocket full of posies, and if we all just work together to build a rainbow and stuff. But like, no, it sounds simple, but that's because it is cool. Like just to learn about like the different, how different competitive games are, but how there's
the environments are too.
Like there's still like one shared nature there.
Yeah, like the essence of it is all still the same. It's just the game is different, but the essence is still the same. As far as the competitive nature goes, like at least as far as like, for Yu-Gi-Oh, it's a bit different because that game is a fucking money pit for some people. People be dropping fucking some G's just to play a deck, and I'm like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, some people be nuts.
Some people pay rent to play this game. It is nuts, man. Holy shit.
And on Smash, we unfortunately, like a lot of other communities, use Twitter for our hubs, and Smash has a lot of weird people online. But when you actually go to a tournament, the vibes are so different. Like it's just fucking fun.
Electrifying.
Like, it's electrifying. People are having fun when you're actually at one of these things instead of just like looking at all like the fucking troglodytes online
on Twitter.
on Twitter. Yeah, and it's different, and it's an important thing that I had to remind myself of, like, you know, during the pandemic, is that, like, you know, like, these people aren't always the same people that you see when you actually go to these things. Don't get me wrong, there are fucking weirdos in Smash too.
Yeah, there's weirdos in Yu-Gi-Oh as well. We got weirdos in every circle.
Oh, like, yeah. But yeah, I still owe a lot to that community. I had the most serious relationship of my life because of it. The most meaningful romantic relationship I've ever had. The best job I've ever had. Got me a literal job with Nintendo, which is not something many people in the Smash community can say they fucking had happen to them. Some did, but, you know, I'm very grateful for it. You know, part of me, you know, like, if, you know, we were talking about job hunting, you know, I wish I did more extracurricular stuff in college as opposed to just Smash, but I still did get a lot because of Smash, and I know.
Yeah, like, thing. Good. And at the same time, it's like, when you get older, right? Like, yeah, you look back and you kind of regret, but at the same time, it's just like, all you gotta know is just that, like, look, like, would you really want it to like, kind of happen in any other different way? Personally, for me, looking back at my past, I kind of, like, I always just think I had to go through that shit to realize how much of a fucking, disgusting person I was. And then I had to grow out of that. Like,
same.
Like, it's the same way, like, kind of just growing up. And, like, you and I are at that age, too, where it's just like, I'm like 29 and I'm still playing a card game and I couldn't give less of a fuck because, like, you know, at the very least, like, it always depends on if you're gonna have fun with it. If you're getting enjoyment out of it, then who the fuck is anyone to say, like, that, oh yeah, you play that or whatever? It's like, what the fuck do you do for fun?
I feel like I'm in that same place as you, where, like, you know, as you grow older, you realize the things happened was just the way things happened, and then you have less regrets because you're just like, yeah, I'm still getting to that place that I want to be in my life. And I could sit and cry and bitch and moan that I didn't do this and this is why I'm not here, blah, blah, blah. But, like, all in all, things still turned out pretty fucking great. Same thing when, like, you know, like, when me and my girl broke up, I'd be like, am I going to regret that I had the relationship with her? I'm like, even when I wanted to say yes, no, I didn't. I think back on that experience fondly now. And it helped me grow a lot as a person. Just because it hurts at the time, you know, like, if you still regret it later, it might mean you're still carrying some of that hurt.
Yeah.
And I relate that to Smash, not only because I met her through Smash, but, you know, part of the reason I quit playing Smash is because I thought I kind of had to grow up. I thought it's time for me to, like, maybe this is what's holding me back from, like, finding, like, a good job, you know, and then once I do all that, like, you know, have a steady career and I'll go back to it. I haven't entered a Smash tournament in 3 years, and how many voiceover gigs you see me get? Not much, you know what I mean? So it kind of makes me think, where are the excuses? Maybe it's my fucking fault even further than I think. But that's no reason to beat yourself up. Just means you gotta, like, you need to make the adjustments. And if you can't make those adjustments by yourself, just get some help. This is the metagame of life we have switched to talking about. So we could go on for another 15 minutes if you guys want. We're already way past an hour.
I think the audience is sick of hearing us at this point.
Do you have any more questions about Smash?
No, I think just a couple closing statements. Like,
sure.
if any of you guys out there, like, you know, do play a game and, like, you enjoy it, like, to the point where it literally gets you horny, like, when you play it, like, maybe a little too graphic there, but if you're having fun with it, right? Like, just always know
there's certain characters in Smash that make you horny. You've fucking seen Palutena, one of her taunts is a pole dance. I'm not even fucking
I know. I'm just imagining now, because it's just like, and then you ask the guy, like, ask your opponent, like, you know, who's playing Palutena, it's like, so, why do you like playing her? Like, actually, what's the actual reason you like to play as her? It's like, oh, you know, she's like she doesn't really float too much. Like, no, bro. What is the real reason you like to play as her?
And she looks dead eye contact.
Yeah, it's just like you just stare him right dead in the fucking eyes, and like if you catch him lying, like, you know, like, you'll know when he's lying.
Like, he starts sweating harder than when he was in bracket. Like than when he was in the friggin' bracket.
Fucking sweat lords, man. They all exist, but. Yeah, my closing. Yeah, just going back to my closing thoughts. Like, don't ever.
Fuck! Did you hear that? I dropped all my cards.
That is something that Yu-Gi-Oh players always fear.
Damn it! Now I gotta play 52 pickup. Okay.
And
they're everywhere.
Just know that, like, you know, you're never too old to enjoy yourself, if that makes sense. Like, I know guys who are way older than me who play this fucking game. It's kind of fun. It's kind of funny, but at the same time, like, you know, I get it. You know, it's like the same way that, like, you know, for certain games, like, people play poker. And at least for poker, there's really not a meta game, so to speak, I guess. It's just kind of like, you know, you're going to play...
There is and there isn't.
Yeah, there is and there isn't. Like, you know, it just depends, like, you know, like, just how well you're going to play against the table. And people love poker. And, like, I don't give a fuck, like, that, like, at least poker is basically like a solved game at that point. It's like, it's a game that's been around for fucking hundreds of years at this point. And people literally, by droves, all go watch the World Poker Competition, which is just a bunch of fucking usually middle-aged dudes that just sit around playing poker, like, on camera. And people go nuts over it. And it's like, I get it. I understand. Just don't ever think you're too old to enjoy, like, anything. Even a game or whatever. Just, like, don't ever think you're too old to enjoy.
Nope.
Like, just do it. If it makes you happy, go fucking do it. Really. Do whatever makes you happy.
I echo that sentiment. And I will say, if you find yourself not having fun anymore, if you find it's bringing you more stress than pleasure,
Need a break.
then either stop or it is time to take a break. Even if it's something that you want to do, it's something that you want to do for a living, if it's something that you just do for fun, eventually you just got to step back for a little while, and it's important to recognize that. Even, like, professional players do that of, like, sports and shit sometimes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I had to step back from Smash commentary for a long time, and while I'm still paying the Pied Piper for that, of not getting picked for, like, you know, even my local majors and stuff, now it's just on me. You know, I don't travel to shit no more to be able to commentate, so it's on me at the end of the day. And, you know, there could be a sadness in that if you're, like, still stuck in the past, or there could be a beauty for it if you know, realize I have the power to make these choices however I want. And that is how I'm going to try to treat my job hunt from now on, instead of just constantly thinking I made the wrong decision by rejecting jobs I never wanted too much. Too many thoughts in my brain. Alright, there it is. I already know what the thumbnail for this is going to be.
Can it be just Mario and Yugi?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was gonna put Minecraft Steve in a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Oh, I mean, that'd be cool too.
Matter of fact, write me, like, there's probably, like, a template maker online somewhere. Write me, like, in Discord, write me a description of, like, Steve from Minecraft as a fucking Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Okay, yeah, I will. I got you that later tonight.
That'll be funny as shit. I can't lie. So, this is the Double D Experience. In case you forgot, we're available wherever you get your podcasts.
That's right.
Literally wherever. I can't even list them all, because Anchor distributes it, like, everywhere. It's on platforms that I probably don't even know exist.
If your platform has podcast in it, or podcasts in it, you'll probably find it. So just look it up. Double D Experience in the search.
Yeah.
Boom.
On
there
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, all that good stuff. Even though I know most of you listen on Spotify and YouTube, to be honest. Very, very, very few people listen on iTunes. It's funny.
No one really likes iTunes.
Yeah, I know.
Even people who have Apple don't like using iTunes.
Yeah, I know. They all have Spotify.
I know. And now it's like, Apple's like, oh, well, what do we do with this? It's like, they just, like, point at iTunes. It's like, what do we do with this?
It takes forever to upload on Apple as well. Like, it's always on iTunes, like, last. Like, when I try to, like, plug it on social media, and, like, sometimes it's not there yet, and I'm like, it's been 3 hours. Fuck.
Apple went on break when it was still uploading.
YouTube.com/Nintoonist, which is where I know most of you actually watch. Yeah, you can follow us at Double D Pod, at the Double D Experience 21. That's all our stuff. Yeah, we did it. There you go. The fuck out of here.
Tier 0, 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 tier 0.